Welcome back to Metal Band's Chronicles in the Metal Band Mobile on this rainy, gloomy looking Sunday here on November 15th of 2020. 2 days ago. That's right, the new AC/DC album dropped, Power Up, and I'm going to do a quick little review of it. You know, I didn't pick it up till yesterday actually, but yeah, right here it is, Power Up. Jewel case, you can get it in digipack too. They got it in box set form too, and of course you can get it on vinyl. I'm sure you could probably get a cassette copy of it too, but yeah. So you got 12 tracks here. You know, the album clocks in at roughly 41 minutes and 3 seconds. Man, yeah. So I've spun this album roughly about 5 to 6 times right already. Yes. It's been about 6 times. And I'll tell you what, this album just gets better and better with each listen. I honestly believe this is the best AC/DC album since The Razor's Edge. Very, very strong album indeed, you know. Now, there was a lot of things that went down, you know, leading into this album. You know, a few years back, you know, Brian Johnson had to step down as lead vocalist due to almost losing his hearing, you know. Then, you know, Cliff Williams had retired. You know, and Phil Rudd had gotten in some legal troubles and had to step down from the band too. So those three were pretty much going from AC/DC. You had Axl Rose come in and replace Brian Johnson for some tour dates, you know. Which, you know, yeah, I'm sure there's some people out there that wanted an album with Axl Rose. Me, I'm sorry. It's got to be Brian Johnson, you know. And thank God Brian Johnson came back. Thank God Phil Rudd came back. And thank God Cliff Williams came back. You know, over the summer, you know, the rumors started going around, you know, that Brian Johnson, Phil Rudd, and Cliff Williams were spotted entering a recording studio to record a new AC/DC album. Thank God, you know, that did come to fruition, you know, and we got Power Up, you know. First single, Shot in the Dark, dropped back in September, if I remember correctly, you know. It was really cool, man, you know. I mean, you got like little vignettes and clips of it before the single dropped, you know. And it's an excellent track, I think, you know. Definitely continues that traditional AC/DC sound. And that's what you're going to get on this new album. It's a continuation of the AC/DC formula, that AC/DC sound, you know, what they're known for. You're not going to expect AC/DC to go in a different musical direction. That's just not going to happen. I'll tell you what, I do think this album's better than Rock or Bust, you know. Like, Rock or Bust was a good album, but it wasn't very memorable, if you know what I mean. This right here is memorable. You know, you get Realize, great way to begin the album. You know, just your typical rocking AC/DC tune, you know, with some pretty good choruses to kind of remind me of something off the Razor's Edge, you know, pretty good stuff. Rejection's another very good track on here. One of the best tracks on here, to be honest. Just a really good song. It's probably the longest track on here too, at a little over 4 minutes long. Like, a lot of these tracks just clocking around the 3-minute range, but that's fine. Shot in the Dark. Don't gotta talk about it. We all know it by now. You know, the first single released from here. Through the Mist of Time, another really good, memorable track on here, I think. You know, it could be possibly one of my favorites on here, you know. I think it's a really strong track, you know. Kick You When You're Down kind of reminds me of Money Talks a little bit in structure. You know, another solid freaking track on here. Like I said, there's not a bad track to be found on here, I don't think. Witch's Spell is probably one of my favorites. Now, Witch's Spell kind of goes back to an album like Flicking a Switch with me. I can definitely hear a Flicking a Switch, maybe a, for those about to rock, we salute you type of sound going on with this track. I think it's a really strong track. One of the best on this freaking album. Demon Fire. Let's talk about Demon Fire quick. Demon Fire. Now, if you like tracks like Caught with Your Pants Down, Beating Around the Bush, you're gonna like Demon Fire. Or a track like War Machine off of Black Ice, you're definitely gonna dig Demon Fire. It's definitely more upbeat, to the point. And I really like the way Brian Johnson does his vocals on here. It's a little different in the beginning. He does like a really low range to start it off, which kind of threw me off at first. But then, gets back into typical Brian Johnson form, as the song progresses. Just a really good track. It's got a really cool riff, similar to a track like War Machine, like I said, from Black Ice, or, Caught With Your Pants Down from Ball Breaker, or Beating Around the Bush from Highway to Hell, really good track. Wild Reputation, another really strong track in my opinion. Now, Wild Reputation, man, definitely sounds like it could have been off Flick of the Switch. I can definitely hear a Flick of the Switch vibe with this track. Same with the next track on here, No Man's Land. Very Flick of the Switch-like. Like, the parallels I'm getting with this album is a mixture of the Razor's Edge and Flick of the Switch. That's the kind of vibe I'm getting with this new AC/DC album. Two of my favorite Brian Johnson era AC/DC albums, too. So then we go to Systems Down. Systems Down, another rocking, pretty damn good track. Again, more your typical AC/DC, Same with Money Shots. Money Shots, another really strong track on here, I think. And then we get Code Red to close it out. Again, another tremendous track on here. Very strong album. I definitely enjoy this album a lot more than Rock or Bust. Like I said, I do think it's the best album since The Razor's Edge. This might even be a tad better than The Razor's Edge. That's debatable. I mean, it's fairly new to really pass judgment on that claim yet, but this album does keep growing on me with each listen. It's a very strong album. I'll tell you what, man, it's very awesome too that we got an AC/DC album here in 2020 with all the other bullshit that's going on here in 2020. This is what we needed. We needed a good AC/DC album, just a typical party album, and in traditional AC/DC form. And the one thing I noticed about this album compared to the last couple albums, very riffy. I definitely agree with Sea of Tranquility on this. The album's very riffy. You get a lot of great riffs by Angus Young and Steve Young on this album. Of course, a lot of this was written by Malcolm Young, So yeah, the band sounds in top form on here. And let's talk lastly about the vocal work of Brian Johnson. Amazing. He sounds better than he's ever sounded, man. You gotta think too, Brian Johnson's 73 years old now and sounds rejuvenated on this freaking album, man. Maybe that breakaway is what Brian Johnson needed, because he sounds better than ever on here. I mean, the vocal work is just phenomenal on here. Angus sounds great. Steve Young sounds great, Phil Rudd's playing some really, basic drums. Cliff Williams is doing some great bass work. All in all, this is a damn good AC/DC album. I know it sounds pretty silly, but you know what? I gotta give this album a 10 out of 10. It's a damn good comeback album for 2020 where we really needed it. And that's my review of Power Up by AC/DC, album number 17. Definitely go out and buy this.